Hi, I'm Brian Cully Pottery. In this video, I'll be doing a little bit of glaze demo, loading my gas-fired kiln, which is outside of my studio here, how I load it, the shelves, a few of the aspects of that, and then a little bit of the firing process as I do turn-ups. And then we will unload the kiln and I'll show you some of the results I get. And pretty much this is basically, my videos would be on appreciation of clay and what potters go through to get the results and why potters get so excited and what keeps them going. You know, there's so much work to it and sometimes there's disasters and things you don't really want, but opening that kiln, as all potters know, and pulling out those pots and seeing the surprises and all that hard work come to fruition is part of the whole process. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll be doing more videos in the future. Today, we're going to do a little demo on glazing a pot and getting the kiln and loading the kiln and how I go about doing that. First, I'd like to show you guys, this is my glaze stir. Actually, you really need to stir the glazes a lot. You don't really want to have them settle too much. So I always have something kind of ready to go. I like paintbrushes because they kind of scrub the bottom of the glaze rather than a rubber spatula, which I usually have right here, but it's over there in the sink getting cleaned off. So I've stirred it up. I got my dipping cup. My lid to my glaze is upside down. That's where I keep my stuff. This thing is chunky. But basically, I just twist it all the way around like this. There you go. And I missed a little spot inside. Whoops. And a lot of it goes on the ground. But that's not too bad. Little bits, okay. I'm kind of a messy glazer. That's how I was taught. You splash it on there, you squirt it on there. I mean, I like to, sometimes I paintbrush the inside. Doesn't really matter as long as you get the glaze on there. But that's one kind of twisting way to get the glaze all the way in there. Instead of like doing this and then your hands can't go any farther. So start all the way around so you can twist it out of it. So maybe like a bowl, stuff dries pretty quick, right? So now if I go like this, if I have a foot on the bottom of my pot, this one doesn't have much of a foot because I just threw them off right off the wheel head. You can hold it upside down and do it, but this one, I'm gonna have to do it this way. So then again, I twist it all the way around. And I'm kind of dragging the cup on the pot, kind of touching it to it. And again, you might have look around, did I miss a spot? No. And I like to leave some of the clay body because it's a dark clay body and it looks nice after it's fired. I do a little reduction on it, it brings out the color. And you can, you know, get the drips off, go like that. And you have your spot already. Put it over and slide it on there, done. So when that's dry, I'm gonna do another little dip on top of it. But here's a cup, let's say, same thing. I'm gonna do the little twist thing again. Boom. Perfect. And shake it off like that. There you go. Sometimes what you can do is I have a little water here and I keep a sponge in it. So let's say I get a little glaze on my hand from doing something. I gotta get it off there. So I use the sponge in the bucket to rub my fingers on. And I used to always have a towel. You use your pants. There's my towel. Keep it on this stool right here. Boom, boom. Right. If your hands are one little trick, if it's hard to grab your pot, if you get your fingers just a little bit wet, it kind of holds on to it better, like that. Because it's so porous. But so here, I'm going to do it again. And you can pour them like this. Just follow it around. Now, there's a little spot. I'm just gonna, one thing you want to do is when you're glazing and there's a dry spot where the glaze didn't get, don't wait till it dries because it's gonna it's going to get the glaze real thick in that spot. Not where there was no glaze, but all around it. So you kind of want to hit it when it's wet, and it doesn't thicken up as much on the surrounding area of that spot that's missing the glaze. So here's kind of a cool, like, kind of a nice little zone there. Maybe I'll leave it. Might look nice, you know? I think it's kind of like a mountain form or something, kind of a landscape. So there's that one. Now, I'm going to go back to this one. It's still a little wet, but I'm going to put the glaze on. So here's my second glaze. This is a strontium-based glaze, and whatever I put it on, it kind of runs, and it kind of makes all the other glazes, gives them a little bit of originality, a little bit different, brings out the colors of the glaze that I'm using. This is an iron-based glaze. It's called licorice black, the recipe I found, but it comes out, it looks like a temaku glaze, like a traditional Japanese glaze, especially when you reduce it. It looks very nice. So then, I'll put a little bit of strontium on there. So, shoot, I think I'm just going to dip the lip on this one, so I can just put it in there. So, when I did that, I just didn't dip it straight down. I kind of wanted to go in there, so I gave it a little angle on it. But if you only want it on the outside, if you dip it straight in and you keep the air stuck in there, it really won't go up inside the pot. It'll just go on the outside. That's my little trick. And I shake it. And if I got a drip and it's starting to drip, you can blow the drip and it dissipates it so it won't keep going down if you can catch it. Another little trick, but there you go. There's a double dip pot. Some people are triple dipping. Or sometimes if I don't want the second dip that thick, I want more of a wash, I'll just use my paintbrush and kind of layer it on there. Or you can take the glaze. Sometimes I do this is I'll take a small part of it and I'll add a bunch of water to it and make like a wash. I do that with my bronze glaze just to give it a little bit of something extra on top of there so it melts in there and it doesn't get too thick to where it wants to drip. So there we go. So we'll head out the kiln. I'll show you guys how I stick in the kiln and put a shelf in there. We'll see you outside. All right, we made it out to the kiln. Got a kiln post here. I got the pot that I glazed. There's the double dip on there. So I'm going to set it in the kiln. There you go. One thing about the post that you use, you want to get your pots, like one shelf should try to be all about the same size so you maximize the area of your kiln with wear. You want to stuff that thing full. I've been taught that it fires better when it's really full, not a lot of airspace. So this, you can see, the bigger bowl, it's pretty close to the top. But I'm running out of things, so I'm just going to start shoving this kiln full of whatever will fit on that shelf. Another thing about these posts, this is a perfect example. In this spot, the shelves are slightly off, so I have to add a little bit of this stuff I call wadding. It's kaolin and silica. I make it into kind of a clay. It's the same stuff that's on my kiln shelves. I make a wash, so if glazes drip, the glaze pops off. It doesn't ruin your shelves. Just a lot more waterier when you put it on the shelves. So I make a little coil. Probably a little too much there. Just put it on there. And I go to the spot and smash it down until it's up straight. Just like that. That easy. Grab my shelf. This is probably about 25 pounds. I basically put it in there. Sometimes I get it in there, and sometimes I have to micro adjust it to make sure it's in the right spot. I will be adding more to this shelf. I'll probably take the shelf out and add more stuff. But I just kind of, for example, show you how I get it in there. There you go. And sometimes a little wobbly, so you can kind of lift one corner and let that post kind of settle in, or pick it back up and do it again, readjust the posts. This size kiln, it's a little bit of work. I think the last fire I did, it took me like 2 days to glaze and load, and every shelf. So something I'm trying to change. My kiln wash was flaking off a lot, and it's funny because some spots it'll totally stick. There's how it flakes off. So the cell kiln wash, I never bought it because it's just kaolin and silica that I use. That's how I was taught to make it. So I'm like, buy it. It's too cheap just to, you know, get the bags and mix yourself with some water. And I thought, well, maybe there's a better recipe. So I went on YouTube and I found a guy, and he put a little bit of flux in there. I think he used G200, which is a feldspar flux, and so I just put some Gerstley borate in there. It's just like it was 1% to 100 grams, 1 gram in your batch. So it's just a tiny bit. And he says it just fluxes enough so it won't peel off your shelves. So I'm trying it for the first time on these shelves, and we'll see how it does. Hopefully I won't have to scrape them and fix them every time I fire, but it's not that big a deal. It goes pretty quick. And it's nice to freshen them up. And so I'm going to keep loading this. We'll come back when it's all loaded. I'm getting ready to light the kiln, and we'll talk about that. And we'll keep going with this process of making pottery. See you then. Basically, I just go around a piece of newspaper and light each burner. Each burner on my kiln has its own valve, so I can kind of get it going and just turn one on and then slowly get them all lit. I use 6 burners on this side of the kiln. This kiln has 2 doors. I got this off for free like 15 years ago, and some kind of big production kiln. So it has a door on their side, 2 loading chambers. So I built a wall that you can see back there, so I wouldn't have to fill the whole thing. So sometimes I use the other chamber that's smaller now, maybe to bisque while I'm doing the glaze. This fire I'm not. I'm just trying to get ready for the Christmas sale that I'm doing this weekend, so I'm just trying to get my last stuff in there. So the kiln's a little bare. I usually like to pack it a little bit more than this, so a lot of space left in there still. But I want to go over a couple things. So I got my cones in there. They're right up here and right down at the bottom. And I got my 2 spy holes, so I'm going to look through there as the kiln's going, and as it gets up to temperature, they'll start bending. I'm going to fire to about cone 7. And call that medium range. High fires like 10, 11. Low fires like cone 06. So yeah, I like cone 6. That's where I learned in college, and I reduce it a lot. I get some copper reds, and my black glaze turns to a nice temaku. I have a Japanese traditional glaze that's pretty nice. So I'm really happy with cone 6. Throughout the firing, I take my notes. I write down when I start it, that's in candle, and throughout the firing I do my turn-ups, and I just keep track down to the minute. I don't go like every 5 minutes. If it's 7:41, I write 41, you know. And then I use my pyrometer. It's right here. I'm going to hook it up and put it through the spy holes, and throughout the firing, I just use it to make sure that there's a rise in temperature, that I can see that it's going up and how fast it's going up. I don't really trust these things to know the exact temperature. You can calibrate them. I have 2, and they're never the same. So like I said, I just use it to make sure the kiln's rising, and I can watch the speed of the rise. And then as the cones start to melt, I go to the cones. I still use the pyrometer a little bit, but I'm still like, I'm just waiting for those cones. I'm trying to make this kiln even, so the bottom sometimes is kind of cool. So I have to mess with the damper. I have some shields on the bottom so wind doesn't blow my burners out. And I've learned that if I leave them on, that it stays a little more even. I used to take them off so more air would go in, and that doesn't really work. And so I tried them with it on, and so you learn about your kiln as you're firing it. And that's kind of a fun part of pottery, and the whole process. Not just throwing on the wheel. There's the glazing. There's loading the kilns. There's cleaning the shelves and whitewashing them. I think I was just showing you guys that. So a lot of work, but it's very rewarding when you open it and the firing's done and you get to see the treasures. So hopefully it's good firing. The last one was like about a week ago, and I got some nice ones out of it. So I'm doing this little video. I had actually recorded a bunch, but I didn't like what I did on the first firing. So I'm doing it again and trying to make a better video so I can show you guys how I do it. I think that's about it for this part. Yeah, so I'm going to let it rip, and throughout the night, I'm going to bump it up so that I can get up to maybe 1,000 degrees at like 8 in the morning, and then fire it off by like 3 or 4 while the sun's still out. So I have a propane tank. It's a 500-gallon propane tank. So it's a big tank because you want a lot of volume of gas to fire a kiln. But if you used a 5-gallon tank, like a little barbecue one, it would just freeze. So as the propane's leaving, it makes the tank cold. Propane guy explained it to me, but all I know is it freezes up on you, and I don't want it to freeze up. It did it once before where my studio used to be, up north from here in Santa Margarita, and got really cold out. It froze my tank. So I got another 500-gallon tank, so I'd have more volume going out. And I don't want to do that here. I have one, and it seems to work pretty well if I fire it off full throttle to get up the temperature. When the sun's hitting it, it's warm out, so we should be fine. So I'll leave it at that, and I might do a little bit of checking in during the fire at night. By tomorrow during the day, do a couple turn-ups and talk about the rising temperature with the pyrometer, but that's about it. So we'll see you then. So we've gotten this far. I was candling last night. I fired it all night. It was about up to 800 degrees in the morning. So it's about 4:30 now. The sun went down. Propane tank seems okay. So I'm just going to keep firing. I've got cone 4 down. Cone 5 just went down. And I got it really even, bottom and top. I ended up just closing the damper a whole bunch just before. This was earlier on the firing, much lower temperature. And I just kept it to where there was no flame coming out. I just closed the damper down to like a 1/2 inch. The damper is on top. It lets air go in. The heat goes out. And the bottom, just the temperature rose up. I was like 50 degrees off, 70 degrees off, and the bottom went hotter than the top. So I learned I need to close the damper down. The reason I'm kind of having problems with this, and I'm relearning, this kiln used to be up north, so I just moved it here, and I did a Kickstarter to move it here about 2 years ago. So this is the 3rd firing I've done here. So it's been like 10 years, 12 years since I fired it. So I'm kind of relearning, and that's what's really fun about gas kilns is, you know, tweaking with them and learning how to fire them, and I can reduce it, and it's super warm. I can sit out here and kick back by it and have a beer. So yeah, I just checked it. I got my pyrometer still in there. I'm kind of moving it. I move it back and forth, like I was saying before, just to see if I got a rise in temperature and how even the temperatures are. So it's working out really well. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy so far. I think another like 45 minutes maybe and I should be done, maybe even sooner. Maybe I'll let it hold, I'll turn it down and let it just kind of soak for a while. That's what you call it when you just want the kiln to sit there at the temperature it's at. If there's any bubbles, let them flatten out, what have you. So next time I come back, let's see, I think we'll be opening the kiln and looking at what I got and explaining some of the glazes I did and how I came up with those glaze combos. See you in a little while. Okay, so it's the next day. The kiln has cooled off. About ready to open it. I think the firing went pretty good. I've peeked in there already. I reduced it quite a bit. So I got some unusual results. Like I said, I'm learning how to fire the kiln again. So, yeah, things turned out a little bit different. Got a little hot too. Went up to cone 7. Some of the clay bodies. That was pretty nice. That's a little bit of a dazzler here. See this? Came out pretty nice. So this is a cone 6 firing. I'm getting copper reds from the reduction, which usually they go to cone 10 for copper reds. But I've always said if you can get them in raku at 06 low fire, why couldn't you get them at cone 6? So yeah, I'm pretty stoked on these glazes. This is the strontium over the blue-green glaze. And like I said, copper reds. Still nice and toasty in here. It's kind of nice. My cones went down. I got it nice and even. Here's the one on the bottom. Here's the one on the top. See? Not bad. Not bad at all. Pretty darn close. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to keep on loading and pull out some pieces so I can show you guys in a minute. Okay, I got down to the bottom of the kiln. A lot of, like I said, unexpected results I got out. The reduction went really well. I kind of pushed my kiln, so sometimes I lose some, but other times I get the results I didn't expect. I got some of these glazes. At the last firing, I didn't reduce as much, temperature's a little different. Totally different results for the same glaze combos. So I did the same combos thinking, oh yeah, these were nice. And this time, they don't even look like anything like it. I'm going to show you some stuff over there in a sec, but here's the bottom, and here's a couple examples. These are some hanging planters I make. I throw them upright, and I let it hard up, and I turn them over and then throw the bottom. So they're double thrown form. So I throw them like this, like this on the wheel, and I do all this. And then when they get leather hard, I turn them over, I keep this real wet, and I throw the bottom. But anyways, yeah, so there's the reduced clay. You can see like that red-brown clay right there. Very nice. But it got really rough and bubbly, which that was my spearmint glaze. It's usually glossy, so I think that heavy reduction, I really went for it. Kind of tweaked it out, but it's a planter, so it's more sculptural, so it's great. Here's kind of the same deal, but on a bowl. So I really don't want it rough like the planter. It's pretty, but a little rough. So maybe we can refire. It's got some pinholes, but that's all right. Now here's this glaze I found online, and it's called blue green. So it used to come out bluish and these pretty greens. Other glazes went well on it. And then when I started reducing it, like I think I might have mentioned before, it started going red. And this time, there's some really nice copper reds. Going 7-6, I went a little hot in this firing. I'm regretting slightly, but that's part of the fun and the excitement. You can tell I'm pretty excited right now. Any potter, this is the payoff for all the hard work you do, the throwing, the preparation, the back breaking effort, the sore wrist from wedging. It all comes down to this moment. That's the base. It did this like crazy spotting thing. I got a bunch of pots like that on there. It really did it on this one. Pretty wild. Yeah. So I put some ropes on these and hang them. They're pretty cool. So I'm gonna move you over here. And this bowl got the copper red. I hope you can see it. I mean, it came out pretty sweet. Pretty nice right there. It's probably one of the more happier pieces I got out. So I got a couple bowls. My kiln wash, between the two shells when I loaded it, a piece of kiln wash fell. So sometimes you get bad things that happen, but that's the way it goes. Maybe I can do something to this, but if you can see, there's kiln wash, like three little spots. My mic's down here, so yeah, see right there. So kind of a bummer. It's a pretty bowl. Maybe I can do something with it. Here's some more of that copper red. Anyways, kind of hard to see in the video. Oh, the sun's messing with me right now. But you can tell, I'm really excited. So this video is mainly what I want to do is just kind of show the excitement of making pottery, all the hard work that goes into it, what we go through to get the results we want, and the endless striving for knowledge of how to get better pieces. I also do pit fire, but I'm on a cullybrian on Instagram. I show a lot of photos there. And I'll be doing more videos, more of like basic, just maybe some kind of hacks, an easier way to do things. Not the most technical. I like to do it. I'm a pretty low-tech guy. You can tell by my kiln that thing's ancient. There's no bells and whistles on it. I have a raku kiln I'll be showing you. I bisfire in it. I do test glaze firing. I'll show you how I built it. Super easy. It's old electric kiln. You just put a couple gas pipes in there. So more videos to come. I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you next time. Brian Cully Pottery.